What if the man you've spent years hiding from suddenly shows up in front of your child, only to hear your little boy call him daddy? And what if, in one terrifying moment, that same man would take a bullet just to save the son he never knew he had? If this story gripped your heart like it did mine, don't leave without showing your love. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss the next life-changing story. Drop a comment below and tell us how this moment made you feel. And share this video with your friends so they can feel the same chills and emotions you just did. Let's spread this powerful story together. The old alarm clock exploded with a sharp buzz at exactly 5 a.m. in a cramped Houston apartment. Emma Brooks shot up in bed as if jolted by an electric current. Her breath caught, her dark hair falling loose over her shoulders, and for a brief second, she froze. Then she was moving, fast. Bare feet slapped against the worn wood floor as she darted to the tiny kitchenette. She flipped the switch on the coffee maker, but her hands didn't stop there. She slammed open a cupboard, grabbed a chipped mug, and set it under the machine as hot steam hissed into the dark air. The smell of strong coffee flooded the space, but there was no time to enjoy it. The camera would catch quick flashes. Emma rifling through a stack of crumpled bills on the counter, her brow tightening as she saw the red stamped letters, "Past due." Her lips pressed into a thin line, no words, just a heavy exhale that trembled. She spun toward the narrow hallway. "Ethan," she whispered fiercely, opening the door to the small bedroom. A 4-year-old boy lay curled under a thin blanket, cheeks flushed with sleep. His tiny hands clutched a frayed, stuffed dinosaur. Emma knelt beside him, voice soft but urgent. "Honey, wake up. We've got to go." She brushed his light brown hair off his forehead. He stirred, rubbing his eyes. "But it's still dark, Mommy." "I know, baby," she said quickly, lifting him into her arms, her voice cracking just slightly. "But Mommy has to be on time today." Back in the kitchen, the coffee had finished dripping. She grabbed the mug, took a burning sip, and set it down without flinching. With one hand, she forked scrambled eggs onto a plate. With the other, she pulled on her faded blazer, barely managing to slide one arm through before turning to cut Ethan's toast in half. Tick, tick, tick. The clock on the wall screamed that time was running out. Emma shoved a folder of paperwork into her worn leather bag, then glanced at the stack of utility bills again. A flash of panic crossed her eyes. Her jaw set hard. She forced herself to look away. "Come on, Shoes," she urged. Ethan wobbled on his feet as she knelt, tying the frayed laces with trembling fingers. Her hands were quick, but her breathing was uneven, every motion tight with pressure. Ethan looked up at her, confused. "Mommy, are you okay?" She froze, just a heartbeat, eyes glistening. Then she forced a smile, cupping his cheek. "Of course, sweetheart. Mommy's strong. Let's go." She grabbed her bag, slung it over her shoulder, and in one sweeping motion lifted Ethan onto her hip. With her free hand, she flicked off the kitchen light. The apartment went dark, leaving only the hum of the refrigerator and the echo of their hurried footsteps. In the hallway outside, she pushed the door shut, her eyes darting to the neighbors' doors. The air smelled of old paint and rain-soaked concrete. She hugged Ethan tighter. The boy laid his head on her shoulder, eyes closing again. But Emma didn't slow down. She charged down the stairs, her sneakers squeaking against the metal steps. Outside, the Houston sky was still a deep blue-black, streetlights buzzing above cracked pavement. A lone car hissed past, tires splashing through puddles from the night storm. Her car, a battered silver sedan, waited at the curb. Emma yanked open the door, tossed her bag in, and buckled Ethan into the back seat with trembling hands. "Hold on, baby," she whispered. She slid into the driver's seat, gripping the wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. For 1 second she sat there, staring at her own reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman who stared back looked tired, yes, but in her eyes burned something fierce. A mother's fire, a refusal to give up. She turned the key. The engine coughed, then roared to life. Emma Brooks drove into the pre-dawn streets, chasing time, chasing hope, because whatever waited at the end of this day, she would not let her son down. Emma slammed the car door shut behind her and rushed up the narrow stairwell 2 steps at a time. heart still pounding from the race to beat the clock. The apartment door clicked open, and for a fleeting second, she thought she had everything under control, until her phone buzzed on the counter. She snatched it up, breathless. "Hi, this is Carla." The babysitter's nervous voice crackled through. Emma's stomach clenched. "Hey, I'm almost out the door. Emma, I'm so sorry, I can't make it today. My mom's in the hospital. I have to go." The words slammed into her like a punch. Emma froze, phone pressed tight to her ear, staring blankly at the half-finished breakfast plate on the table. "Wait, what? Carla, I need you. I have to be at work in—" "I'm sorry," Carla whispered. "I really can't help you." Then the line went dead. Emma stood rigid for a heartbeat, her pulse roaring in her ears. She looked over at Ethan, who was sitting on the couch, swinging his little legs, unaware of the storm breaking in his mother's mind. Then she snapped her gaze to the clock. 6:40 a.m., only 20 minutes left. The next wave hit, her boss, Mr. Dalton, the man who once fired an employee for being 5 minutes late. Emma's hands trembled. If she didn't show up on time, there would be no second chances. No rent money, no food on the table. She grabbed her phone again, scrolling through contacts. No relatives nearby. Friends? All working. Her throat tightened. No one. There was no one to call. Ethan's small voice broke through. "Mommy, are we going?" Emma's breath hitched. She knelt in front of him, eyes burning but steady. "Listen, sweetheart. We're going together today. Stay close to Mommy, okay?" He tilted his head. "To your work?" "Yes," she whispered, pulling him into a fierce hug. "Hold on, baby. Mommy's got this." Then she moved, fast. She stuffed his dinosaur into her bag, zipped it, and grabbed her car keys. She looped his backpack onto his tiny shoulders, snapped his jacket, and lifted him off the couch in one motion. Her mind raced as she stormed out the door, locking it behind her with shaking hands. In the hallway, her sneakers pounded against the concrete floor. Ethan bounced in her arms, clutching her neck. "Mommy, slow down." "I can't, baby," she said through gritted teeth, rushing down the stairs. "We can't be late." Outside, the Houston morning had turned humid and restless, traffic already crawling on the main avenue. Emma strapped Ethan into the back seat, her fingers fumbling at the buckle. He blinked at her, sensing her urgency. "Are we in trouble?" She paused, cupped his cheek, and forced a smile. "Not if we go fast." She jumped into the driver's seat, slammed the door, and twisted the ignition. The old sedan groaned before catching. She yanked the gear shift into drive, tires squealing as she pulled away from the curb. Her heart raced with every red light. Every second felt like a hammer pounding down on her future. As she merged onto the freeway, the city skyline rose ahead, gleaming with the power and wealth she could only watch from a distance. Emma gripped the wheel tighter. Her knuckles whitened as she darted between cars, the clock on the dashboard ticking mercilessly. Inside the car, Ethan's voice was small but steady. "Mommy, will they let me play there?" Emma's chest constricted. "No, baby. You'll have to stay in my office. You can draw, okay?" He nodded solemnly, gripping his dinosaur through the backpack fabric. She took a deep breath, eyes darting between the road and the time flashing on the dash. 6:53 a.m., 7 minutes. Her jaw tightened. There was no turning back now. As the car sped down the final stretch toward the towering glass building, Emma felt the knot in her stomach harden into iron. Bringing Ethan to work was forbidden. If anyone saw him, she could be reprimanded. Or worse. But she had no choice. She glanced into the rearview mirror. Ethan's eyes were wide, trusting. Emma's voice was steady, even though her heart thudded against her ribs like a drum. "Hold on tight, baby. Mommy's got this, no matter what." And with that, she turned the wheel into the corporate driveway, unaware that this desperate choice, this single, reckless gamble, would unravel secrets she had buried for years and change both their lives forever. The sedan screeched to a stop in front of Carter Global, the 30-story glass tower that shimmered under the rising Houston sun. Emma's pulse hammered as she threw the car into park, grabbed her bag, and unbuckled Ethan. "Stay close to me," she whispered, lifting him down onto the sidewalk. His little hand instantly found hers, his dinosaur peeking out from the top of his backpack. The automatic doors hissed open, and a blast of cool air hit her face as they stepped inside. The lobby was alive. Heels clicked across marble, cell phones buzzed, and men in tailored suits strode past with clipped urgency. Emma tightened her grip on Ethan's hand, pulling him close against her leg. Her eyes darted from security guards to receptionists, praying no one would notice the small child at her side. Children weren't allowed beyond these doors, and she knew it. Ethan's head turned in every direction, wide-eyed. "Wow, Mommy, it's so shiny in here." "Shh," Emma breathed, pressing a finger to her lips, her gaze fixed on the elevator bank ahead. Every step across the polished floor felt like walking on a tightrope. She could almost hear her boss's stern warning in her head. No distractions, no excuses. She swiped her badge at the security gate. The turnstile clicked. One deep breath, and she ushered Ethan through with her, forcing a smile at the guard, who barely glanced up. Relief flashed through her chest, until the elevator dinged. "Emma Brooks?" a voice called out across the lobby. She froze, mid-step. A young assistant in a navy blazer rushed toward her, a folder in hand. "Mr. Dalton needs those reports now. He said top floor, 35, right away." Emma's mouth went dry. 35. She glanced down at Ethan, her heart twisting. She couldn't take him with her up there. Too many eyes, too much risk. But she couldn't say no to the order. Not with her job on the line. She crouched in front of Ethan, lowering herself to his level, speaking quickly but softly. "Listen, baby. I need you to stay in Mommy's office. Right there. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. Just wait for me." Ethan's small brows furrowed. "But Mommy..." Emma gripped his shoulders, urgency flashing in her eyes. "I mean it, Ethan. Not a step. You stay put, okay?" He nodded slowly, clutching his dinosaur tighter. Emma hustled him down a narrow hallway, past rows of cubicles. She pushed open the door to her tiny office, barely big enough for one desk and a filing cabinet. She guided Ethan to the chair in the corner and knelt again. "Stay right here. I'll be back before you know it." "Okay, Mommy," he whispered, trying to smile. Emma brushed her hand through his hair, then forced herself to stand. She glanced once more at him. So small, so vulnerable in a world that didn't belong to him. Her stomach twisted, but the assistant's voice rang down the hall again, sharper this time. "Emma, now." She shut the office door behind her, her heart in her throat. Her heels clicked against the linoleum as she broke into a fast walk toward the elevator, gripping her folder like a lifeline. As the elevator doors slid shut, she caught one last glimpse through the small office window. Ethan swinging his legs quietly, eyes fixed on her retreating figure. Emma pressed her back against the elevator wall, forcing air into her lungs. She had just crossed a line she swore she'd never cross, bringing her son into a world where he didn't belong. But she had no choice. The numbers on the elevator screen climbed, 18, 22, 29, each one a drumbeat in her ears. At floor 35, the doors opened with a sharp ding, spilling her into a corridor of glass and steel. She straightened her blazer, wiped her sweaty palms on her skirt, and walked forward, unaware that just behind her, in that small office, the first thread of a much bigger storm was about to unravel. The hallway outside Emma's cramped office was quieter than the lobby, but still humming with activity. Phones ringing, printers whirring, footsteps brisk against the tile. Ethan swung his small legs from the chair, clutching his dinosaur. He waited. A minute passed, then another. The soft hum of the air conditioning filled the silence. His gaze drifted to the crack of light under the door. He slipped off the chair and padded toward it, pressing his ear to the wood. Voices and footsteps came and went, fading down distant halls. His fingers brushed the doorknob. He hesitated, remembering his mother's firm words. "Stay here, don't move." But curiosity sparkled in his wide gray-green eyes. He turned the knob slowly. The latch clicked. The door eased open with a whisper. Ethan peeked out, then slipped into the corridor, clutching his stuffed dinosaur against his chest. He stepped carefully, sneakers squeaking faintly on the waxed floor. To his left, tall windows poured sunlight into the hall, lighting up a world unlike anything he had ever seen. Sleek desks stretched in rows, glowing computer screens everywhere. people in crisp shirts and heels, moving with purpose. Ethan's small heart raced with excitement. He edged farther out, trying to see more, his head swiveling left and right. He wandered past a row of cubicles, eyes darting to polished nameplates and thick folders stacked on carts. His mouth opened in awe. Everything looked big and important, like the offices on TV. Then suddenly a turn. He rounded a corner too fast. Bam! Ethan collided into something solid. He stumbled backward, the dinosaur slipping from his arms. His knees buckled, but before he hit the floor, strong hands steadied him. Ethan looked up, his breath caught. The man towering over him was nothing like the others. His dark gray suit fit perfectly, every line sharp, every detail precise. His hair was neatly styled, but his eyes, deep steel blue, piercing, froze Ethan in place. Logan Carter, CEO of Carter Global, 34 years old, a man whose name alone made executives tremble. For one endless second, the world narrowed to just the two of them. Logan's eyes locked onto Ethan's, and his chest tightened. Those eyes, the same exact stormy shade as his own. Ethan's lips parted in surprise, then stretched into a bright smile. His voice rang out, high and innocent, cutting through the steady office hum. "Daddy?" The hallway froze. A junior analyst halfway through a phone call stopped mid-sentence. A passing manager nearly dropped his tablet. The receptionist at the end of the corridor whipped her head around. Logan didn't move. His hand was still on the boy's shoulder. His breath hitched, heart thudding in his chest like a drum. He felt the eyes of his staff on him, but he couldn't look away from the little boy staring up at him with pure, unfiltered joy. Ethan, oblivious to the shocked silence, bent down, scooped up his stuffed dinosaur and stepped forward. His small arms wrapped tightly around Logan's leg. "Daddy, I found you!" Logan's world tilted. The CEO, who never flinched at million-dollar deals, suddenly felt his chest constrict. A flash of memories he didn't even know he had clawed at him. Laughter, soft voices, a night long buried. His jaw tightened. He crouched slightly, staring into Ethan's eyes, searching for something. Who are you?" Logan's voice came out lower than usual, rough around the edges, a tone his employees had never heard before. Ethan only giggled and held on tighter, resting his cheek against the expensive fabric of Logan's suit. "It's me, Daddy!" The tension in the corridor deepened. Murmurs rippled, then faded into stunned silence. Someone gasped softly. The CEO, with no family, no attachments. A little boy was clinging to him, calling him Dad. Logan's fingers twitched. He was aware of every eye watching, aware that his image, his perfectly controlled world, was cracking right there in public. Yet, for reasons he couldn't explain, he didn't push the boy away. Footsteps pounded from down the hall. Emma's voice pierced the stillness, breathless and panicked. "Ethan, no!" She skidded into view, eyes wide with terror as she saw her son wrapped around Logan Carter's leg. Her face drained of color. Logan lifted his gaze slowly, fixing those piercing eyes on her as she froze in the middle of the corridor. The air between them burned with unspoken history, with secrets neither of them had prepared to face. And in that split second, amid the whispers, the pounding hearts, the stunned stares, Emma felt the ground shift under her feet. She had fought for years to bury the past, to keep this truth hidden. But her son's innocent word had just torn everything wide open. And there was no going back. "Ethan!" Emma's voice cracked as it tore through the frozen hallway. She sprinted forward, heels clattering against the tile, and ripped her son from Logan's leg, clutching him tight against her chest. Ethan's small arms instinctively wrapped around her neck, confused by the tension choking the air. Logan straightened slowly, the crowd of employees instinctively stepping back as if sensing an oncoming storm. His sharp blue eyes narrowed, locked on Emma with a cold intensity that made her spine stiffen. His voice was low, but carried like a blade through the silence. "Who is this boy, Emma? And why did he call me Dad?" Emma's heartbeat roared in her ears. It's a mistake," she stammered, her voice barely steady. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter." Logan cut her off, his tone like ice. "Don't lie to me." She tightened her grip on Ethan, who buried his face in her shoulder. "Please," she whispered, her breath trembling. "It's nothing. I'll take him and leave." But Logan stepped closer, the weight of his presence pressing down on her. "No," he said, each word clipped and deliberate. "My office. Now." Gasps whispered through the corridor. Emma froze. Her instincts screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. Logan had already turned, his strides long and unyielding toward the private glass-walled office at the end of the hall. His assistant swung the door open without a word. Emma's legs felt heavy as she followed, clutching Ethan tighter. The moment she stepped inside, Logan's voice dropped, calm but seething. "Put him down." Her eyes darted to the door, but she obeyed, setting Ethan gently on the leather sofa against the wall. "Stay here," she whispered to her son. He nodded silently, eyes wide. Logan's gaze didn't leave Emma. He walked behind his desk, placed both palms on the surface, and leaned forward slightly. "Talk," he ordered. Emma's fingers dug into her arms. "Mr. Carter, I can explain. Explain?" His voice rose, slicing through her attempt. "A child just called me Dad in front of my entire staff. Do you think I can ignore that?" He yanked open a drawer and pulled out a file, slamming it onto the desk so hard Ethan flinched on the sofa. Emma's chest tightened. Logan shoved the folder toward her. "I know your name, Emma Brooks. I know you joined this company 4 years ago, a single mother with no references. I know you have no family nearby. And now," he paused, his voice dropping lower, "I know you've been hiding something." Emma's breath caught. She forced her trembling hands to stay at her sides. "You're mistaken," she whispered. Logan's jaw clenched. "Mistaken?" He pushed off from the desk and stalked around it, stopping just inches from her. His presence was suffocating, his words sharper than before. "Then tell me why he has my eyes." Emma's lips parted, but no sound came. The truth clawed at her throat, but fear slammed the door shut. "He's not yours," she said finally, her voice breaking but firm. Logan's laugh was humorless, low, and dangerous. "You think that's going to work on me?" He tilted his head, his eyes searching hers for any crack, any weakness. "Emma, I've built empires by spotting lies. You're lying now." She shook her head violently. "I'm not. Just let us leave, please." But Logan stepped even closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper that sent a shiver down her spine. "No, we'll see." The words hung in the air like a threat. His expression hardened, eyes burning with questions and anger she couldn't answer. Emma felt her knees weaken, but she refused to look away. Behind them, Ethan shifted nervously on the sofa, his small voice barely audible. "Mommy, are we in trouble?" Emma turned her head, blinking back tears, and forced a smile for her son. "No, baby. Everything's fine." Logan's gaze flicked to the boy, then back to Emma. "This isn't over," he said coldly. "You've got one chance to tell me the truth. Don't test me." Emma's pulse pounded as she gathered Ethan into her arms again. She didn't answer. She couldn't. "Get out," Logan finally growled, stepping back, but his eyes followed them like a predator tracking prey. Emma bolted from the office, clutching Ethan so tightly he whimpered softly into her shoulder. The hallway outside seemed longer than before, filled with whispers and curious stares. Her breath was ragged, her heart in shreds. But one thought screamed in her mind as she hurried away. Logan Carter wasn't going to let this go, and she had no idea how to stop what was coming next. The next days were a blur of pressure and relentless pursuit. Emma barely slept, her phone buzzing with unknown numbers, her stomach knotted with dread every time she stepped into the office. Logan Carter was not letting go. He had his legal team digging into her past. College records, employment history, medical files. Every time she caught sight of him across the floor, his eyes were on her, sharp and calculating. On Tuesday morning, she found a sealed envelope on her desk. Inside were DNA test forms with a terse note in Logan's handwriting. "Sign it. We need answers." Her hands shook as she crumpled the paper, hiding it deep in her drawer before anyone could see. But the threat was there, alive and humming. That afternoon, Emma retreated to the break room to catch her breath. She pressed her palms to her face, fighting back tears. She didn't hear the soft patter of small footsteps until a tiny voice piped up behind her. "Mommy, I can't find my car." Her heart lurched. Ethan stood there clutching a little red toy car with a broken wheel. "I lost a piece," he said sadly, holding it up. Before Emma could respond, a shadow fell across the doorway. Logan's tall frame filled the entrance. His eyes flicked from Emma to Ethan, and something in his expression softened for a fraction of a second. "Come here, buddy," he said, crouching slightly and holding out his hand. Ethan hesitated, then toddled over, placing the car in Logan's palm. "Mister, can you fix my toy car?" Logan didn't speak at first. He turned the car over in his hands, examining the bent axle. Emma's breath caught. She had never seen him this still. The man who barked orders in boardrooms was suddenly quiet, focused on a child's broken toy. He rose and motioned toward his office. "Come with me." Emma started to object, but Logan's tone was gentle, almost surprising. "It's okay. He's safe with me." Inside his sleek office, Logan cleared a corner of his desk, rolled up his sleeves, and opened a drawer. He pulled out a tiny screwdriver and a strip of tape. Ethan's eyes lit up, fascinated, as Logan carefully loosened a screw, straightened the wheel, and secured it. His large hands moved with unexpected precision. "There," Logan said after a few moments, holding up the car. "Try it now." Ethan pushed it across the desk, laughing when it rolled straight and smooth. "You're awesome, mister." For the first time in years, Logan smiled, not the polite smile for cameras, but a real one that reached his eyes. Emma watched from the doorway, her chest tightening. She wanted to drag Ethan away, but she couldn't move. Instead, she watched as her son climbed into Logan's lap without hesitation, chattering about superheroes and dinosaurs. "Spider-Man can jump higher than anyone," Ethan exclaimed, arms spread wide. Logan chuckled. "That so? Who's your favorite?" "Spider-Man. But maybe you too," Ethan said shyly. The words hit Logan like a punch to the chest. His arms instinctively steadied the boy on his knee. "You think so?" His voice was softer now, barely above a whisper. Later that week, Emma's unease only grew when Ethan came back from lunch with Logan, holding a melting ice cream cone, his face smeared with chocolate. "Mommy, he took me to the park," Ethan beamed, tugging at her sleeve. Emma's heart twisted. She watched from a distance the next day as Logan bent down in the lobby to tie Ethan's shoelace, patiently listening to another story about superheroes. The sight shook her to the core. This was the same man who had cornered her in his office, demanding the truth with fury in his eyes. Yet now, he was kneeling for her son, a quiet warmth flickering in his gaze. Emma gripped the edge of her desk, torn between hope and fear. Was this genuine, or just another calculated move to get what he wanted? Her mind screamed to stay cautious, but her heart wavered as she saw Ethan laughing freely in Logan's arms. For the first time in years, Emma couldn't tell if the danger in Logan Carter's eyes was fading, or just hiding behind something far more dangerous, a man learning to care. And as she turned away, her chest ached with a mix of terror, confusion, and something she refused to name. Because deep down, she knew one thing. Her carefully built walls were starting to crack. The afternoon sun was already dipping when Emma rushed through the glass doors of the daycare, her pulse racing. She scanned the room, tables, toys, tiny backpacks scattered across hooks. But one thing was missing. "Where's Ethan?" Her voice cracked, loud enough to silence the chatter of kids and teachers alike. A teacher stepped forward, pale and shaking. We thought he went with his father." Emma's heart stopped. Her knees weakened, and a high-pitched ringing filled her ears. "His father?" she shouted, her voice trembling with fury and fear. "He doesn't have one here. Where is my son?" No one answered. No one could. Emma staggered back, clutching her phone, fingers shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She hit Logan's number, pressed it to her ear, praying he would pick up. It rang once, twice. "Emma?" His deep voice cut through the static. "Ethan's gone," she sobbed, her words tumbling out in a rush. "They said a man took him. Logan, I don't know who." There was a beat of silence, then Logan's voice came back, sharp and commanding. Listen to me. Stay exactly where you are. I'll handle it. Logan, stay there, he barked, his tone so fierce it silenced her. Then the line went dead. Logan slammed his phone onto the dashboard of his black SUV, tires screeching as he swung into traffic. His mind raced through possibilities, names, enemies. Then one name surfaced, burning like acid: Derek Vaughn, the man he'd crushed years ago in a hostile takeover. A man with nothing left to lose. Logan's jaw clenched. He dialed one of his security contacts. "Trace Ethan Brooks, now. Use every feed, every camera." His voice was low, lethal. Minutes ticked by like hours until a call came back. A location. A warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Night was creeping in when Logan's SUV roared down the gravel path, headlights slicing through the darkness. The warehouse loomed ahead, a rusted skeleton against the fading light. Logan killed the engine and stepped out, his footsteps crunching on loose stones, every sense on high alert. Inside, dim light bulbs swung from the ceiling, casting jagged shadows. And there, in the center of the open floor, stood Derek Vaughn, disheveled suit, cold smirk, and a pistol pressed to Ethan's temple. The boy was tied to a chair, eyes wide with terror, but silent, brave in his own small way. "Well, well," Derek drawled, stepping into the light. "The great Logan Carter comes running when he finally has something to lose." Logan's chest heaved, but his voice was steady. "Let him go, Derek. This isn't between you and him." Derek laughed, the sound echoing off the concrete walls. "On your knees, Carter, now." Logan dropped to one knee without hesitation, raising his hands slowly. "You want me? I'm right here. But you will let the boy walk out of here alive." Ethan whimpered. "Daddy?" His small voice trembled through the room. The word cut through Logan's heart like glass, but it only strengthened his resolve. He locked eyes with Derek, voice cold as steel. "Let him go. You don't touch him." Derek tilted his head, amused. "You ruined my life. Do you really think I'll—" A gunshot cracked the air. The force slammed into Logan's shoulder, spinning him sideways. Pain tore through him, but he stayed on his feet, staggering forward. Blood soaked into his sleeve, dripping onto the dusty floor. Emma's scream echoed in his mind, even though she wasn't there. "Don't you dare lose him! Don't you dare!" Logan lunged. With a burst of strength, he barreled into Derek, knocking the gun aside as it fired another wild shot into the ceiling. Ethan cried out as the chair tipped, but Logan reached him, ripping through the ropes with trembling hands. He scooped his son into his arms, holding him so tight the boy gasped. Logan staggered back, using his own body as a shield, vision blurring from blood loss. "I've got you," he whispered hoarsely. "I've got you, buddy." Ethan clung to him, sobbing into his shirt. "Don't leave me again, Daddy." Logan's voice cracked, raw and broken, as he stumbled toward the door. "Never," he swore, his breath shallow but fierce. "I will never leave you again." Behind them, Derek cursed, scrambling to his feet as the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights flashed through the grimy windows. Logan pushed through the pain, staggering out into the night, clutching Ethan as if nothing else in the world mattered. And in that moment, bleeding, shaking, but unbroken, Logan Carter knew this truth with absolute clarity. He would risk everything, lose everything, just to keep his son safe. The ambulance roared through Houston's crowded streets, siren wailing, red lights reflecting off every passing car. Inside, the chaos felt both deafening and still. Emma sat hunched on the bench, one hand gripping Ethan, the other pressed firmly against Logan's blood-soaked shoulder. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice shaking. Logan's skin was pale, his breathing uneven. His eyes fluttered open, those storm-blue eyes locking onto hers with a rawness she'd never seen. His lips moved, barely audible over the hum of tires and the medic's commands. "Why?" she choked out, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Why would you do something so reckless?" Logan swallowed hard, voice hoarse and broken. "Because he's my son." His gaze flicked to Ethan, who clung to Emma's side, sobbing quietly. Logan's chest rose in a shaky breath. "And I will never lose him again." Emma felt the words hit deep, shattering the walls she had spent years building. For the first time, she saw him not as the ruthless CEO or the man who vanished 5 years ago, but as a father who bled and fought for his child without hesitation. The medics worked quickly, stabilizing his shoulder, securing the bandage as the city blurred past outside. Logan's hand found hers, weak but certain, his fingers curling around her trembling ones. And Emma, despite the pain, despite the fear, didn't let go. Weeks later, spring sunlight warmed the grass of the city park. Logan moved slowly along the path, his shoulders still wrapped, leaning on a crutch with every step. Ethan raced ahead, laughter ringing through the air as he chased a kite, its tail whipping in the breeze. Emma stood nearby, watching the boy spin and run, her heart finally quiet after weeks of storms. She turned at the sound of footsteps on the gravel. Logan approached, his usual confident stride replaced by a careful limp, but his eyes were steady, clearer than she had ever seen. He stopped in front of her. For a moment, neither spoke. The distant chatter of children and the rustle of leaves filled the silence. Then, with deliberate effort, Logan shifted his crutch to one arm and reached into his pocket. Emma's breath caught as he slowly lowered himself onto one knee, his movement stiff but determined. He opened a small velvet box, the sun catching on the diamond inside. His voice, low but unwavering, carried every ounce of truth he'd hidden for years. "Emma, I made mistakes that cost us time I can never get back. But I swear to you, I will never run again. Marry me. Let's raise Ethan together. Let's be the family he deserves." Emma's hands flew to her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. Her heart raced, memories flashing. Long nights alone, endless worry, the boy who called a stranger daddy, and the man who had risked everything to bring him home. Ethan came skidding to a stop beside them, his small face beaming. "Say yes, Mom," he shouted, bouncing on his toes. "Say yes!" Emma's vision blurred as she looked down at Logan, at the hope in his eyes, at the man who had changed in front of her. A laugh broke through her tears as she nodded, voice shaking. "Yes, yes, Logan." The park seemed to pause for a heartbeat, then burst back to life with laughter and sunlight. Logan slipped the ring onto her finger, rising carefully, pulling her into his arms. Ethan threw himself against them, giggling as they wrapped him in the embrace. The three of them stood there, bathed in the soft orange glow of the setting sun, the Houston skyline blazing in the distance. For the first time, Emma felt a peace she thought she'd never know. Logan's arm stayed firm around her waist, Ethan's small hand wedged between theirs, gripping tight. As they walked off together along the winding path, Ethan swinging between them, Emma looked up at Logan. He met her gaze, and in that quiet exchange, everything was clear. Family, this family, was all that truly mattered, and this time, nothing and no one would ever tear them apart again. In life, we often build walls around our hearts to protect ourselves from past pain. But this story reminds us that true strength lies in opening those walls when love and family call us back. Emma sacrificed everything for her child, proving that a parent's dedication can move mountains. Logan, once cold and distant, risked his life and transformed because he realized some things are more valuable than pride, power, or money. For anyone in their 20s, 30s, or 40s navigating career pressures and personal struggles, this story is a wake-up call. Never let ambition blind you to the people who matter most. Take time to hold your loved ones close, to say the words you've been afraid to say, and to forgive when you can. Share your thoughts in the comments. What part touched your heart the most? Don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss more inspiring stories like this one.